so hot and sweaty in here? Because today we are going to be chatting about our hottest ever metal takes that are so scorching hot that they're just going to get me like instantly cancelled. I've got a few especially spicy ones and I've compiled 5 of them. Okay, so there's nothing heavy and there's nothing evil about deathcore. This is like f***ing easy listening music to me, right? I'm not really a fan of Steven Wilson, but sometimes he says things that make sense, particularly with heavy guitars. It's become such a trope to use that sound that it actually no longer even sounds heavy anymore. It's almost like the equivalent of using a string pad. That guitar sound has just become part of the texture of the music. So I think deathcore started off pretty heavy. So like if you go all the way back to like Suicide Silence, it sounds heavy as shit, evil as fuck. This is like legitimately good. It's legitimately heavy, sounds evil as fuck, energetic as fuck. It's amazing. But over time, a lot of like modern deathcore and metalcore music, right? It's just been like subject to this fucking loudness war, right? They're all trying to like out heavy each other and out loud each other. But ironically, they end up doing the opposite. And I just find like this sort of music has just become like so watered down and it's just like become so sterile. It's like if you compare like that, for example, to... It's really loud and it's really fast, but it's not heavy. It sounds more just kind of like a wash of sound. And I just feel like that's the opposite of what this music should invoke in you. And it's very strange. The way that modern core albums have like been produced now, it just like saps all of like the heaviness out of it. Everything is so compressed to fuck and so squished that it just like loses all dynamics. And if you guys don't know what compression is, when you create music, like it comes out in a waveform like this. In bands' efforts to make things as like, you know, loud as possible, these are called like the thresholds, right? And what it does, it squishes the waveform down to be more sort of like straight and consistent. And by doing that, you can like expand it easier to make it like more consistently loud. Because if you go back to that old Suicide Silence album, this sounds loud and it sounds heavy because it's not compressed to fuck and it has like a much bigger dynamic range, right? Heavy metal is probably the most fashion-conscious subculture on the planet, which is super ironic because, you know, metal is often seen as a kind of like a scruffy, non-fashion-y like subculture, right? The core look of a traditional metalhead is band t-shirts, yeah? What other subculture does that? Like, rap fans are all about nice clothes and like labels and stuff, but not in the same way. And I guess like you could argue maybe like punk and like goth. Like, most people don't dress in like the full goth get up like everywhere they go, right? But like metalheads are like always making a concerted effort to look metal most of the time, right? They want to be like representing their like favorite bands all the time. They want to be wearing some like cargo shorts or like camo shorts. And the whole like judging band t-shirts thing, right? I know like, oh look, who's wearing a Burzum shirt? No, name 3 fucking Burzum songs, bro. Like, how many other subcultures is that happening? It's so bizarre to me that for a culture that's meant to be so like counterculture and kind of contrarian, that people are very conscious about what they're wearing. And also like when it comes to hair as well, because people who are metalheads, they like to present themselves as looking like a metalhead. You know, if you're like a fan of like classical music or ska, it's not always obvious like if you're into that sort of music, right? Whereas like metal is there is definitely a definitive uniform, right? There were some classic albums that came out in the 80s. You got the Maiden stuff, the Metallica stuff, some of the Priest stuff. Yeah, there was loads of really great timeless classic albums in the 80s, but most of them were just sort of like condensed between like, I don't know, like 10 bands or so. But it's just all very much about a few bands. But what I think was sick about the 2000s is that there were so many amazing classic albums, but they came from so many different bands doing all sorts of different things. I honestly think that like 2000s was such a renaissance for metal. So you have all like your System of a Down, Linkin Park, Slipknot, all like the cool new metal stuff, and then you've got like the early metalcore things going on. You know, Lamb of God, Trivium, Bullet, Avenged, of course. When you just look at the bigger picture overall, the 2000s was just like a fucking goated decade for metal. You know, in the 80s it was a little bit more narrow. You had like lots of thrash stuff, and then you got the glam stuff, hair metal stuff. But in 2000s you got like just fucking everything. Power metal is a genre I'm very passionate about. My favorite metal genre of all time. I love dragons. I love wizards. I love songs about dragons and wizards. When there's everything that's like fast and you got the solos. But the vocalists are like... But I don't like that Helloween and Blind Guardian are always like the two go-to bands. There are so many other bands that do power metal way better than Helloween and Blind Guardian. Like, I don't think that Helloween and Blind Guardian are like bad bands, but I'm just saying in the context of power metal as a genre, there are so many other bands that do that sound infinitely better. Like, it's not even close. I don't know. They are just like violently mid bands. So yeah, I'm sorry if I've pissed some people off. So yeah, people are mentioning Angra, this album, Angels Cry, fucking amazing. They have that definitive power metal sound, but a bit more sort of like symphonic-y, neoclassically, with great songwriting skills. Singer is amazing. And another one, if you want the full-on Euro metal, power metal experience, Lost Horizon is the band. Remember this? Like, it's like a fucking ancient internet meme. And look, they wear fucking capes as well, right? You know, that's how you know they're the real deal. Where are Helloween's capes, huh? And someone mentioned Twilight Force as well. Easily the band that does symphonic power metal like the best. And look, they dress up as like fucking elves and shit as well. Look, you know you're the real deal when you shred on a fucking lute. And those fucking Disney melodies as well. It's amazing. And of course, you have the more sort of like modern, like Glory Hammer and like Beast in Black. This guy just sounds like Rob Halford on steroids. The song is so catchy, holy shit. And then the last band I'm going to use as reference, Japanese band called Galnerius. Who's heard of these? If you love like neoclassical shred stuff, then go check that band out. So I know we're not really talking about metal now, but you know, like, whatever. Slash has somehow inadvertently become a kind of slept-on, underrated guitarist, which feels like a very, very strange thing to say. So obviously, you know, Slash has written some of the most, like, iconic guitar music of all time. He's probably maybe, like, one of only very few people, perhaps EVH, Hendrix, you could say, who have, like, transcended being just a guitar player, right? He's, like, a fucking cultural phenomenon, right? And, like, I think people have sort of forgotten that he's actually a fucking sick guitarist. I don't know, he's not like the most flashy out there or whatever, but Slash has some of like the tastiest phrasing like of all time. I don't know, he just has this like magical touch and this unique sense of melody. Well, he's such a musical guitarist, and I think people have forgotten that. I don't know if you guys are like too familiar with Velvet Revolver. It fucking slaps. There's some amazing guitar playing on this album. Like, it's like laughably, comedically basic, but it's so tasty. I guess this is the reason why Slash's public sentiment is the way it is, because he does shit like this, I suppose. Oh, no, it's fucking Slash again. Here we go. Imagine if metal bands have background dancers as well. Just like some deathcore band just fucking like going for it, and you got like guys in the background just like...
All right, mate. Do that. Do that. Do that. Nice one.